pazzesche, riesco a copiarle. Non le apriremo. PDF sono, quindi. Chiara Strozzi. Ok. Sarebbe meglio le PowerPoint sono.
Prego. Abbiamo un momento di introduttivo con le autorità che vedete qui di fianco a me che mi avvio a presentare. Just an allowance for our international colleagues. We're gonna keep this brief introductory part in Italian, or I have a few words in English. I don't know whether the others will have it in Italian, but nonetheless we don't have a translation, so please make an allowance for this. La parola al rettore dell'Università di Modena e Reggio Emilia, il professor Carlo Porro.
Grazie. A warm welcome to our international guests and speakers, also on behalf of the University of Modena and Reggio Emilia. Welcome to Modena. Saluto le autorità presenti, saluto la dottoressa Gelmini che è in rappresentanza della Fondazione Marco Biagi che ci ospita, cari colleghe e colleghi, gentili ospiti. Quindi vi do il benvenuto nuovamente a questo momento di studio organizzato sia dalla Fondazione che dalla nostra università in occasione dell'anniversario della scomparsa del professor Biagi. E per me è un onore aprire i lavori di questo convegno che riunisce studiosi, esperti, studenti e rappresentanti istituzionali uniti nel ricordo di Marco Biagi, nostro compianto collega, giuslavorista di fama internazionale, e siamo tutti accomunati all'obiettivo di comprendere le profonde trasformazioni del mondo del lavoro e di individuare strategie per governarle in modo equo e sostenibile. Marco Biagi credeva fermamente nella necessità di un dialogo aperto e costruttivo fra l'accademia, le istituzioni e le parti sociali. Era convinto che solo attraverso un confronto interdisciplinare e la collaborazione fra tutti gli attori del mercato del lavoro fosse possibile ideare riforme efficaci e durature. Ancora oggi il metodo Biagi ci insegna che le migliori soluzioni nascono dall'ascolto reciproco e da un approccio pragmatico orientato a riforme concrete ma guidato da una visione di ampio respiro europeo e dalla centralità dei diritti dei lavoratori. Il tema che ci unisce oggi, ovviamente l'occupazione nell'era dell'intelligenza artificiale e delle piattaforme digitali, è particolarmente rilevante e ci pone di fronte a cambiamenti di portata epocale. Questi due fattori, intelligenza artificiale e digitalizzazione, stanno in qualche modo scardinando modelli organizzativi, processi produttivi e anche i contenuti delle professioni in una certa misura, il che rende evidente l'urgenza di accompagnare l'innovazione tecnologica con politiche del lavoro adeguate, che prevedano formazione e qualificazione professionale su larga scala o riqualificazione per evitare che l'automazione si traduca in nuove disuguaglianze o in disoccupazione tecnologica. Allo stesso tempo l'IA entra sempre più nei processi decisionali delle aziende. Basti pensare agli algoritmi usati per selezionare il personale o valutare le prestazioni. Tali strumenti offrono opportunità di efficientamento, ma sollevano anche interrogativi etici e giuridici sulla trasparenza e l'equità dei criteri adottati. Quindi sono domande a cui il diritto del lavoro è chiamato a rispondere con urgenza, come assicurare la dignità e privacy del lavoratore in un contesto di controllo digitale crescente, e quindi necessità di aggiornare principi e regolamenti alla luce di queste innovazioni. La regolamentazione, come sapete meglio di me, su questi fenomeni è un terreno in evoluzione su cui si confrontano approcci diversi a livello nazionale e internazionale. Alcuni paesi hanno già approvato normative per migliorare la trasparenza e rafforzare le tutele per chi lavora su piattaforma, mentre a livello europeo si discute su una proposta di direttiva specifica. Iniziative normative come quella sul regolamento sull'intelligenza artificiale indicano la crescente consapevolezza dell'importanza di governare l'innovazione tecnologica anche per evitare squilibri sociali. Per essere efficaci le regole devono basarsi su analisi accurate e dati concreti sull'impatto reale di queste tecnologie, sulle condizioni di lavoro, di studi che misurino produttività, benessere e soddisfazione dei lavoratori coinvolti e di verifiche sul campo delle tutele esistenti. A partire da momenti di studio come questi abbiamo quindi la responsabilità di fare in modo che dalle discussioni emergano spunti preziosi, idee e proposte concrete su come governare l'innovazione tecnologica di pari passo con il progresso sociale. Quindi con questo spirito auguro a tutti voi buon lavoro. Grazie.
Grazie al magnifico Rettore. Darei ora volentieri la parola a Ludovica Carla Ferrari, già assessora del nostro comune, forse per la prima volta su questa cattedra istituzionalmente, sì, oggi consigliere della Regione Emilia-Romagna. Prego.
Grazie. Grazie davvero per l'invito, è un piacere essere qua oggi. Autorità, illustri relatori e relatrici, studiose e studiosi, gentili ospiti, è per me un grande onore essere qua in rappresentanza del Presidente De Pascale per la Regione Emilia-Romagna in occasione di questo importantissimo appuntamento che si svolge per la 22esima edizione. Ogni anno questo appuntamento rappresenta un momento di riflessione e approfondimento di straordinaria rilevanza, non solo per il mondo accademico e giuridico, ma per tutti coloro che si occupano delle trasformazioni del lavoro e delle loro implicazioni sociali ed economiche. La nostra Regione ha riconosciuto il valore del metodo di Marco Biagi, che ha saputo unire studio, ricerca, dialogo tra istituzioni, parti sociali e imprese, con l'obiettivo di trovare risposte concrete alle sfide del mondo del lavoro che cambia continuamente. È vero, siamo alle prese con la grande sfida della trasformazione digitale che incide profondamente sul mondo del lavoro, oltre che, oserei dire, in quasi ogni altro aspetto della vita umana. Il tema scelto per questa edizione del convegno è di straordinaria attualità. Viviamo un'epoca di cambiamenti profondi, nei quali l'innovazione tecnologica e la crescente automazione dei processi produttivi incidono sul lavoro. Il lavoro, così come l'abbiamo conosciuto fino a pochi anni fa, sta attraversando una metamorfosi che pone questioni complesse, dall'organizzazione del lavoro alla qualità dell'occupazione, dalla tutela dei diritti alla sostenibilità sociale di un'economia sempre più digitalizzata. L'intelligenza artificiale sta entrando in ogni settore, dalla manifattura ai servizi, dalla logistica alla sanità. L'utilizzo di algoritmi per la gestione delle risorse umane e per il monitoraggio delle prestazioni lavorative solleva serissimi interrogativi di natura etica e giuridica. Le piattaforme digitali stanno per molti versi ridefinendo il concetto stesso di impiego, moltiplicando le opportunità ma anche generando nuove forme di precarietà, soprattutto per i più giovani. Come possiamo garantire che l'innovazione sia un fattore di progresso collettivo e non di esclusione? Come possiamo evitare che la tecnologia sia utilizzata per accentuare le diseguaglianze, anziché ridurle? Come possiamo aiutare giovani e famiglie in questo scontro con il digitale? Queste sono domande cruciali che dobbiamo porci tutti come istituzioni, come studiosi e in definitiva come società. Cruciale sarà il ruolo delle istituzioni, della formazione e delle politiche del lavoro. La Regione Emilia-Romagna è da tempo impiegata su questi temi con politiche che mirano a coniugare sviluppo economico e giustizia sociale. Il nostro obiettivo è chiaro. Vogliamo accompagnare l'innovazione con strumenti adeguati affinché la transizione digitale non lasci indietro nessuno e sia un'opportunità per tutte e per tutti. Per questo investiamo nella formazione e nel reskilling delle lavoratrici e dei lavoratori, affinché possano affrontare con competenze nuove le sfide del mercato del lavoro. Con i lavori in corso per il bilancio regionale stiamo rafforzando il nostro sistema di welfare per garantire protezione a chi si trova in situazioni di vulnerabilità, anche temporaneamente. E promuoviamo il dialogo sociale perché crediamo che la partecipazione delle lavoratrici e dei lavoratori e delle parti sociali sia essenziale per gestire in modo equo e sostenibile il cambiamento. Un altro tema centrale è quello della regolamentazione. La velocità con cui la tecnologia evolve rende necessario un aggiornamento delle norme che disciplinano il mondo del lavoro e non soltanto. Dobbiamo assicurarci che l'uso degli algoritmi nei processi decisionali delle imprese non comprometta i diritti fondamentali delle persone. Dobbiamo rafforzare le tutele per chi lavora su piattaforma, o meglio attraverso piattaforma, affinché non si creino aree di sfruttamento e zone grigie in cui le garanzie sociali siano assenti. Su questi fronti la Regione è impegnata con azioni concrete in sinergia con il mondo accademico, con le parti sociali, con le istituzioni e con le imprese naturalmente. Stiamo sviluppando programmi di formazione mirati per i lavoratori e le lavoratrici dei settori più esposti all'automazione. Sosteniamo la contrattazione collettiva con strumenti per governare questi processi di trasformazione e promuoviamo un modello di sviluppo che metta al centro la dignità del lavoro, la qualità dell'occupazione e in definitiva la coesione sociale. Il futuro del lavoro di qualità, necessariamente deve coniugare innovazione e diritti. Oggi ci troviamo davanti a un bivio. Possiamo scegliere di subire questo cambiamento, un cambiamento che arriva dall'altro capo del mondo, oppure possiamo governarlo come Europa, non soltanto come Italia e come Regione Emilia-Romagna, in definitiva come Modena, orientandolo verso un futuro in cui tecnologia e diritti non siano in contrapposizione ma si rafforzino a vicenda. La storia ci insegna che ogni rivoluzione industriale ha portato con sé sfide e opportunità. La differenza l'hanno fatta le scelte politiche, economiche e sociali, quindi in definitiva la differenza l'hanno fatta le persone. Per questo momento di confronto con questo convegno ritengo che sia un'occasione fondamentale, quest'anno, ripeto, per il tema che avete scelto. Il dialogo tra studiosi, esperti, rappresentanti delle istituzioni e delle parti sociali è essenziale per assicurare una politica di governo lungimirante. Questa scelta di multidisciplinarietà è quella del resto che ha da sempre contraddistinto il lavoro qua in Regione Emilia-Romagna ed è forse uno dei tratti distintivi a noi più cari. L'eredità di Marco Biagi è oggi dunque più attuale che mai. Il suo metodo di lavoro, basato sul dialogo tra accademia, istituzioni e parti sociali, rimane un punto di riferimento imprescindibile per affrontare le sfide del presente e le sfide del futuro. La sua visione, che oggi rivive, orientata a trovare soluzioni equilibrate e innovative alle trasformazioni del mondo del lavoro, deve continuare a ispirare le nostre scelte. A nome della Regione Emilia-Romagna dunque voglio esprimere un sentito, sincero ringraziamento alla Fondazione Marco Biagi, all'Università di Modena e Reggio Emilia, al Comune di Modena, ai sindacati, alle parti sociali presenti, alle associazioni, agli studenti e alle studentesse che sono presenti qui oggi, a tutti coloro che hanno reso possibile questo importante evento. Il vostro impegno nel portare avanti il pensiero e il metodo di Marco Biagi è un contributo prezioso non solo per il mondo accademico ma per tutta la società. Vi auguro davvero un buon lavoro e che sia un momento ancora proficuo per oggi e per i prossimi anni. Grazie.
Grazie. Sindaco di Modena, Massimo Mezzetti, che ringrazio per essere qui in un momento così particolare per lui.
Grazie Professor Fabbri, grazie al Rettore Ludovica, grazie a tutte le autorità presenti e soprattutto a tutti gli invitati. Sono passati 23 anni da quella maledetta sera di marzo in cui perse la vita Marco Biagi per mano dei terroristi delle Brigate Rosse e sono un tempo, 23 anni, che dipende dal punto di osservazione, possono essere tanti anni ma possono essere anche pochi anni. Certo, per chi era attivo e cosciente come me, diciamo, per cui cominciamo a essere un po' anziani. E in quegli anni è passato tanto tempo, però questo tempo è stato utile secondo me per capire, fuori dal fuoco della polemica, della dialettica, dello scontro di quegli anni, di quanto la figura di Marco Biagi fosse stato lungimirante. Fuori dalle polemiche appunto di quegli anni si comprende come Marco Biagi fosse una figura che si stagliava anche insieme ad altre, perché all'epoca fortunatamente ancora avevamo tante persone, tanti intellettuali ma impegnati mani e piedi dentro il gorgo della vita reale, che avevano la capacità di guardare davanti a sé. Magari Marco Biagi non immaginava quello che avremmo avuto noi oggi, intelligenza artificiale, la qualità e la vastità della pervasività delle piattaforme digitali, ma comprendeva che il mondo stava cambiando. Comprendeva che il mondo stava cambiando e quindi non si accontentava di ridisegnare la natura giuridica delle dinamiche del lavoro sul presente, ma cercava di configurarle in rapporto a quello che potevano essere degli scenari futuri. Ecco, se oggi c'è un lascito di Marco Biagi, che lo dico soprattutto ai più giovani, gli studenti presenti qui oggi, è proprio questo: non accontentatevi mai di guardare soltanto al presente e misurare le dinamiche e le scelte da fare soltanto guardando al presente, ma le scelte che adottiamo ogni giorno devono essere in qualche modo proiettate sui possibili scenari del futuro e quindi rispetto a questo configurarli. Marco Biagi fu accusato di tante cose da parte di chi appunto si opponeva a lui, fino agli sciagurati criminali che lo hanno ucciso, di essere colui che frantumava il sistema contrattuale. Oggi diremmo che tale vasta la platea delle figure professionali che noi abbiamo, che forse appunto non rimanere dentro le rigidità cristallizzate delle dinamiche contrattuali dell'epoca e aver anticipato i tempi, in questo avrebbe oggi consentito anche una maggior capacità di rappresentanza di quelle figure professionali che oggi non sono rappresentate. Qui sono presenti tanti giovani, il vostro futuro difficilmente sarà quello di lavoro dipendente in grandi strutture o pubbliche amministrazioni, molto probabilmente sarà quello di liberi professionisti, fra virgolette, che faranno un lavoro dipendente, perché avranno partita IVA, ma di fatto fanno un lavoro dipendente, perché rispondono a un datore di lavoro che ti dà del lavoro e quindi, ma non ti contrattualizza se sei dentro partita IVA. Quindi saranno tante e sono già tante le dinamiche che hanno portato tanti giovani oggi a non riconoscersi, ad esempio, nelle rappresentanze tradizionali del lavoro e le rappresentanze sindacali. E quindi ecco perché è importante appunto guardare le dinamiche del presente, studiarle, ma proiettarle sempre su scenari futuri e rispetto a questo assumere scelte che possono adeguarsi a quello che possono essere i cambiamenti che abbiamo dinanzi a noi. Marco Biagi ci provò, purtroppo fu stroncato il suo tentativo, come furono stroncati precedentemente a lui altri tentativi, pensiamo a Ruffini, altri Ruffilli e altri ancora che furono colpiti appunto dal terrorismo nell'epoca. Ecco, io credo che 23 anni appunto sono tanti anni, forse gli anni di qualcuno che è qui oggi presente, ma sono anche gli anni che ci consentono appunto di guardare con una maggiore profondità a quello che è stato il lascito e l'eredità che ci lascia appunto oggi Marco Biagi. Quindi a distanza di tanto tempo io credo che sia molto utile che ancora oggi in sedi come queste, l'attività che fa la Fondazione Marco Biagi e il convegno di oggi, proseguire nel solco della sua riflessione, del suo insegnamento, della traiettoria che lui ci ha indicato appunto. E ragionare oggi in questa sede di intelligenza artificiale, piattaforme digitali e le conseguenze che queste hanno, non avranno, hanno oggi sul mondo del lavoro e ne avranno sempre di più, credo che sia indispensabile non solo per essere all'altezza della eredità che ci ha lasciato Marco Biagi, ma soprattutto per essere all'altezza di quello che è oggi il nostro compito, e cioè appunto leggere e interpretare il presente per costruire il nostro futuro. Grazie e buon lavoro.
Dear friends and colleagues, it is with great pleasure that on behalf of the Marco Biagi Foundation and the Department of Economics at the University of Modena, Reggio Emilia, I extend a warm welcome to all of you gathered here in Modena for the 22nd International Conference in commemoration of Professor Marco Biagi. This year, our conference focuses on a topic of utmost relevance: employment in the era of AI and digital platforms, understanding and regulating transitions. The rise of artificial intelligence and digital platforms is reshaping the very foundations of work, introducing unprecedented opportunities, but also posing complex challenges in terms of job security, workers' rights, and regulatory frameworks. The conference will explore key dimensions of this transformation, from the impact of algorithmic management on work organization to the evolving role of collective rights and social partners in a world of automation. We will also examine how AI can both threaten and enhance workplace inclusion, and what regulatory approaches are emerging across different jurisdictions to govern these rapid changes. In line with our interdisciplinary tradition, we are honored to welcome 3 distinguished keynote speakers who will offer insights from legal, economic, organizational, and sociological perspectives. Over the next 2 days, our discussions will then unfold through a series of parallel sessions tackling crucial aspects of this evolving landscape, supported by contributions from scholars and experts from across the globe. Our sessions will delve into crucial aspects of these transitions, beginning with an analysis of AI-driven workplace management and its implications for workforce regulation. Other sessions will explore how artificial intelligence can be leveraged to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace, as well as its impact on industrial labor relations and worker representation. Discussions will also cover health and safety concerns in AI-mediated environments, digital labor rights in an era of evolving technological uncertainties, and the responses of trade unions to AI-driven transformations. Furthermore, we will examine the role of artificial intelligence in human resource management, the challenges of algorithmic transparency, and the emergence of new risk paradigms in the digital economy. These discussions, enriched by interdisciplinary perspective, aim to provide a comprehensive understanding of how employment relations are being redefined in the digital age. The remarkable response to our call for papers confirms the significance of these debates, and I'm delighted to welcome here in Modena a diverse and vibrant community of researchers and practitioners. Once again, thank you for joining us. I wish us all a stimulating and thought-provoking conference. Grazie ancora alle autorità civili e militari qui presenti, ai relatori, alle relatrici, a tutti i partecipanti. Ringrazio voi della vostra voce e invito il professor Ales a dare il via alla opening session. Grazie.
Good afternoon. I would like to invite Chiara Strozzi and Matteo Rinaldini to join the floor. You can take whatever seat you want. As you may see, Bernd Bass is not here.
He was suddenly ill, nothing serious, but something which does not allow him to be here to join us. It's really a pity, but we understand that his condition is not compatible with traveling, so we will miss Bernd's contribution. I have been invited to, not to substitute him, it would be impossible, but to say some words on the legal perspective of our topic. I think that Tommaso Fabbri already introduced the topic in a very effective way, so I will not spend any words on the topic itself. Just for organizational reasons, we are a bit late, 15 minutes, so 20 minutes, so I would like to restrict myself to 20 minutes and ask more or less the same as we agreed, 20-25 minutes. Just to leave the floor for discussion. We have a very relatively tight schedule. At 4:15, we'll stop our plenary session for a break, and then the parallel session will start in these and other rooms. I would like briefly to, in any case, briefly to introduce our guest speakers, our keynote speakers. And as usual, we try to have a multidisciplinary approach to our topic. And this is the reason why we invited Chiara Strozzi, who is an economist of labor, to present the economic perspective, and Matteo Rinaldini to present the sociological view on our subject. Both they are teaching in this university, University Modena of Reggio Emilia, and this is at the same time a sign that there is a strong multidisciplinary approach at the Marco Biagi Department of Economics, and both that we are working at the foundation in a very interdisciplinary way in order to shed light on all the aspects of labor relations. The idea to invite Bernd Wass was clearly to have a voice from the outside, one of the most important scholar in this moment, legal scholar in this moment in this field, so we regret so much that he couldn't make it, but we also wish him a prompt recovery. I think I could start as Bernd Wass or as Eduardo Ales, maybe better. I feel more comfortable in my shoes, and try to provide you with this introductory investigation in the topic. When we decided as scientific committee and the friends of Marco to select such a topic, we were fully aware of the complexity of the topic, because it's combining two subjects that could be easily dealt separately, and we could have two conferences on, one of artificial intelligence and one on platform work. But we were lucky in the sense that the EU legislator decided to intervene in 2024 on both, so we decided to take the chance and to combine them. And this has been for us preparing this introductory session also challenging. We met, I as a chair, and both Chiara, Matteo and Bernd, we met a couple of times in order to try to coordinate our reflections and also to have a focus that could combine both issues. For your information, Bernd sent a written contribution, and we would like to ask him if we could then spread the contribution. And then I will not, of course. I've read it, but I will not take his ideas. And so I tried to have a very different approach, which is more generalist. My perspective would be to analyze the relationship between labor law and technology. Don't worry, it would not take so long. Which is clearly a multifaceted relationship, and I was trying also to stick to the title of the conference, which focus on understanding and regulating transitions. So we have clearly an issue of understanding. So try to understand what is the relationship between labor law and technology, and then how to regulate the relationship in such a transitional era. And as far as the understanding is concerned, I would like to make 5 points, very briefly. And these points have to do with, on the one hand, with technology and different aspects of labor relations. The first point and the first aspect is technology for the labor market. So both, and when I talk about technology, I'm referring both to artificial intelligence and platforms. And so, first of all, I think there is an important subject which involves the technology as a potential factor for the labor market. In the sense that here we have, first of all, two main actors, I think, that are touched or even affected by technology, and they are, on the one hand, public employment services, and on the other hand, private employment agencies, so the actors on the labor market. And they are connected to technology for the labor market, first of all, because more and more technology has been used for selection and profiling purposes. And above all, to understand what kind of jobs the labor market really needs, and what kind of jobs the undertakings need. And I think that this is really an aspect that has to be highlighted, because, of course, facing technological change, which is not new, of course, for labor law and for labor market regulation, means also skilling, upskilling, reskilling. And so there is an issue with algorithmic training, and the question is, what kind of training we are talking about when we refer to the labor market and technology for the labor market. But on the other hand, there is a need of training on the algorithm. So in order to manage, in order to define algorithm, we need skilled workers in the labor markets for the undertaking. However, there is a further element, I think, in the relationship between technology and the labor market, which is a basic question we have been asking ourselves since the very beginning. Whether the platform, in this case, is an employer or an agency. Because when it comes to the labor market, of course, one could say, well, the platform is an agent of the labor market. It's just an intermediary between the customers and the service provider. And this is a point that it's really not solved. Of course, the directive is trying to approach this issue using the criterion of work organizations as a distinctive feature of the platform as an employer or as an intermediary. But this is a very difficult point because it is also difficult to state that platforms are really organizing work. And so if the work organization is one of the main features of the employment statute, the employer status, something is missing in this picture. The second point is technology for production, which is a very old, maybe a bit old-fashioned topic. So it's an old issue because, of course, there is the problem of technology and occupation, technology and employment, and the substitution of human employment with machines and robots. And this is a very crucial issue, of course, in our reflection, which in my view, of course, should not be thought in terms of substitution. Because if we think it in terms of substitution, well, we are going towards the end of human work. The point is that, on the other hand, substitution has also its pros, in the sense that we can substitute machine to human beings in very monotonous or very hard work and performance. But there is also a new issue, this is an old one, in the sense that it has ever been in any discourse on technology for production. There is a new issue, which is that one of augmentation. So the fact that technology could also improve human performance. And in this case, we can talk about an integration instead of a substitution of human workforce with machines. On the background, I think, of all these points, we have two traditional but also new issues. First of all, safety and health, and the second, training, which is training on technology in our case. What is new about safety and health is that we are not only assessing traditional risks, we are now pushed to also to assess the risk brought by technology itself. A third point, also in this case old and new, is technology for control. Well, it's an old issue because it is well known that since the 70s maybe, the employers are controlling workers through technology. In Italy, we have a very famous article of the Workers' Statute, Article 4, all the students know about it, which is about technological control and its limits. And it dates back to 1970, so it's nothing new. What is new? It's the fact that work tools can also be control tools. So technology is not only a mean to purpose, it's in itself an instrument of control, which was also understood by the Italian legislator modifying the same Article 4 in 2015, just highlighting that the worker has to be aware that work tools are at the same time control tools. But also technology for control raises the same issues on safety and health and training. Because of course workers have to be aware of the fact that they are controlled through their own tools and the fact that they have to be trained in order to get used to this new scenario. The fourth point, maybe the most investigated also by the papers presented at this conference, is technology for decision making, the so-called algorithm management. I prefer to use technology for decision making because it's not just about managing, it's about deciding, taking decision. And here we have one of the most important and amazing aspect of this topic in my view. So the fact that the dematerialization of the employer is its own call. So the employer the employers are just deciding to be substituted in the exercise of their managerial prerogatives by algorithm. So it's not something that comes from nowhere. It's a decision of the ownership of the juridical person to be substituted by an algorithm. And this is, of course, a very important point because there is, in this substitution, it is clear that technology is in control. On the opposite, if we are talking about integration of technology or algorithm management, we are dealing with control of technology or control on technology. There are two opposite aspects. So if there is substitution, well, the exercise of managerial prerogatives, it changes, totally changes its shape and our understanding. So what is important is not the decision making as such. The important point is the input the ownership provides to the person who is designing the algorithm, because there is still left something to the managerial decision. But there is also in substitution, there are also different aspects, like emphasizing rating and reputational aspects. So it's not anymore managers in control, the employer in control, it's the customer in control. Because if the assessment of the worker is based on the rating provided by the customer, it is clear that once again the employer is discharging its own prerogatives. And all this means that if we have substitution, there is a substitution of human management. So something we already highlighted today in the preparatory conference, there is an issue with all managerial tasks. So managers, where are they? And there is a disintermediation between the ownership, the juridical person of the undertaking, and the employees, because the algorithm is not anymore a physical, a human being managing them. And on top of that, of course, one could ask himself or herself, is it possible to fire an algorithm? We can fire managers. It happens every day. The point is that if there are not managers no more there, well, we should fire algorithm. Of course, in this point, but I will be very briefly because we will have keynote speeches and all papers. There is a problem of transparency, opacity, problems of knowableness, predictability, accountability of the algorithm. So in the decision making, the relationship, technology and decision making is probably the most sensitive aspect. And then there is a final point I would like to make in the first part, which is technology for interaction. It was difficult to conceptualize it because we all understand that technology has a tremendous potential in interaction between human beings. So we interact a lot more with all the digital devices, social media, whatever. But on the other hand, it's also clear that technology has a tremendous potential in segregation. So it's two sides of the same coin. Technology may bring people closer, human beings closer, and may segregate them without any chance of contact. So, the second and conclusive part, how to regulate it. So these are, in a way, my understanding of the problem, so I would like to share with you. How to regulate it. I think we have one important aspect, and one important tool is participation, workers' participation, which is based, of course, on information, consultation, and then even on co-determination. It's a very sensitive issue in Europe because there are different approaches to co-determination, so we know very well. But I think this is a very important instrument in order to anticipate risks, anticipate impact, and to assess the impact of technology. This is a reflection that also Carla Spinelli proposed us this morning. So I think that the right to participate, the right to be involved is one of the most important points. And then, however, there is a point on collective bargaining. And the point of collective bargaining could be connected to the first, so to the right to participate. But my question is, we have a right to collective bargaining in Europe. We have a right to collective bargaining affirmed by Article 28 of the Charter of Fundamental Rights, European Union, but we do not know what does it mean. We do not know about the content. So maybe it's time that the EU legislator would define this right to collective bargaining, forgetting about minimum wage, because I think it would be not really a fortunate example, but defining the also the topics of such a right. And I think that bargaining, the organizational work, should be one of the most important topic. Last remark. We talk a lot about our capacity to react quickly, because there are quick changes, we have to react quickly. Well, I am a bit skeptical about the capacity of legislators to react quickly. So it's a right for unions and employers' organizations if they want. On the other hand, I think that the legislator should be very careful and slow in this matter. Because it's really complicated already to understand what you are talking about. So we do not need fast law, we need slow law, in the sense that we need to reflect on solutions, and we have to avoid oversimplification, because this is not a matter to be treated with the simplification approach, which unfortunately is apparent decision of the European Commission. Thank you very much for your attention. And without any further delay, I give the floor to Chiara Strozzi, please.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the invitation. It's a great honor to be here at the Marco Biagi conference. And my point of view as our introductory is the one of the labor economist. So I will try to sketch an overview of what's happening now in the labor market, the major transformation that the work that we are doing is under pressure. So let's start with a brief introduction of the topic, and then I will go further in the analysis, and we will look at job lost, job skills required, and some figures. But first of all, so we know that the AI in particular is revolutionizing the global economy through the interaction in physical domains, through robotics and through automation, and also through the advent of generative AI, also the cognitive function like with predictive algorithms, machine learning, and so on. So AI is transforming, and in general, digitalisation is transforming all the business sector and across all the economies in the world. So this acceleration has sparked a common debate, a widespread debate, a well-known debate in economics, especially about technological unemployment that go back to Keynes, And so there are experts that are divided between some optimistic views of the power of AI, of increasing productivity, and the one that instead underline the pessimistic view, so the job destruction, workplace displacement, and also widening inequalities in the labor market. So the point is that AI, is, of course, and digitalization, and in general, this technological evolution is transforming the labor markets, but it is not, of course, the only thing that is affecting the labor market now, and of course in all our histories. So economic conditions often impact employment more than AI itself. And, for example, of course, energy prices, wars, and now also trade barriers. So, actually, it can happen also that AI could either mitigate the negative effects by boosting productivity during the slow turns, or, of course, can also exacerbate some jobs losses if poorly managed. So my point is, at least now, then let's see in the future what will happen, but my view is optimistic. So optimistic in a sense that I follow also the suggestion of our previous speaker, so it is maybe more important to underline the power of augmentation of AI. And actually this is the view of most of the well-known international organizations, and not only of the international organization, but also of the employers themselves. So this is the reason why I chose to show these predictions, this forecast. These are the forecast. The forecast actually are the sentiment, in a sense, a forecast and the sentiment at the same time, of the World Economic Forum. That it is an organization that collects surveys among all employers in the world. Actually, more than 1,000 leading companies are represented, also 14 million workers, with 55 countries. So it is a very large survey. And this survey said that in the next 5 years, so between 2025 and 2030, 170 million new jobs will be created, and 92 million jobs will be eliminated, and so the net balance is a positive balance, so 78 million jobs will be created. These are numbers, but actually, of course, there are different numbers with different estimates, and of course, this is a survey, is not a real analysis, real economic analysis, but actually, this is the view shared by most most recent report by also the international organization like the ILO and also the OECD. So, but the point is not only the point of job loss or job created, is the one of job transformation again. So 34% of global employers expect AI-driven job transformation to accelerate over the next 5 years. And globally also the IMF tells us that about 40% of occupation will transform. So the point is transformation of occupation more than job loss and job creation. Just a brief mention of the most known measures of the AI impact on work. There are many different measures. Some of the measures are based on occupation, some are measures of tasks, some other on skills. But anyway, maybe the one that are most known are the one by Felten. And this is the occupational exposure to AI index that estimated the extent to which occupation can be performed by AI. Then there are also task-based metrics, and actually there is also a very, very recent measure by Felten themselves and also by Londu that takes into account the generative AI evolution. Then there are task-based metrics that assess the degree to which individual job tasks are automatable, and the measures that are most known are the one by Tolan and by Webb. Anyway, these measures are based on the development that precedes also the generative AI revolution. So it is important to take into account of this estimate, or the estimate based on this measure, but also on the sentiment, on the survey among the employers. So again, some brief overview of the main transformation that are that we can see across the sector. So before we had seen a global view, now we look at the sectors. For example, the most important transformation can be seen in manufacturing, healthcare, and also office work, but of course not only. One example for manufacturing is the existence of collaborative robots, so cobots, assist workers with strenuous or dangerous operation, and this is also very important. Also thinking about the other very, very big transition, that is the demographic transition. So these cobots can also assist older workers and avoid them to perform strenuous or dangerous operation. In healthcare, an example is the AI that assists in diagnosis through advanced image analysis. So again, it is a collaboration between AI and human. In office work also, no? There are AI automated content analysis, data extraction, etc., transcription, and so on and so forth. So now, we have looked at global picture. We have seen the global picture, also the sectoral breakdown. Let's have a look at some, projection about the jobs, the occupation. So job at risk, and again, this is a shared view in all the different projection, both by surveys, but also by international organizations. The job at risk are, of course, the administrative roles, data entry clerks, and transportation work and manufacturing position, but at risk because they are the highly automatable type of occupations. Growing sector are information technology, of course, healthcare also, healthcare not only because of this collaboration between human and machine, but also because of the demographic transition. So we talk about also silver tourism and also something like this, together with healthcare, of course. Green economy, the third transition, the digital transition, the green transition and the demographic transition are shaping our days. And then research and development. Just to have a look at some figure about Italy. So in Italy, and these are the estimates by Banca d'Italia, by CNEL, but also by OECD, 30% of workers with medium-low qualification are at the risk of automation. Again, this estimate is confirmed by OECD, and 90%, almost 1/5 of the workers will be employed, are employed in sector highly exposed to AI automation. And again, we have seen the job at risk that are the most automatable, like the one that we have seen before, but we have seen that there are also the sector that type of occupation that can be also moderately affected, again, because it is important that there is a kind of transformation among the occupation. Then, so we have talked about work, the occupation, and of course at the global level, but let's look a bit more deeply at the skills, because if the job is going to transform, of course the skills are needed to transform themselves. And this is a nice picture, according to me, because so we think that only digital literacy is important in these days, while it is not like this. Actually, the first required skill is analytical thinking, but also creativity and problem solving. This is the most required skill and the most useful skill in this kind of times of continuous transformation. So first, advanced cognitive skills, of course, digital literacy, data science, AI tools, etc., programming, but also social skills, communication, teamwork, leadership, that are fundamental, again, in this transforming time. And also adaptability, learning agility, resilience to challenge, to change, etc. Another estimate, again, by World Economic Forum tells us that, but this estimate has been updated, that 44% of an individual skills will need to be updated by 2027. So workers must become versatile problem solvers who can work alongside machines. And this is a picture of Italy. I wanted to, I wanted also to put something related to Italy. This is an estimated survey, by XXII system, by Union Camere, in collaboration with the government. And again, these are the evolution of the skills that are required by employers. And maybe you don't see the number, I don't know, maybe yes, but this is the evolution from 2019, 2023, and 24. So transversal skills are becoming more and more important. Again, also in Italy, flexibility, adaptability, teamwork, and secondary priorities, working autonomously, problem solving, Italian and foreign language. Now there is also in 2024 intercultural competencies because are becoming important. So again, these are the most required skills. The declining skills, of course, are the one represented by routine manual tasks, basic data entry, simple arithmetic, and also memorization of procedures. But the point is that some skills are rising, but the most important thing is skill diversity. This is a point made also by Pisarides in the Institute for the Future of Work, again very recently in 2025. So increasing need to combine social and technical skills to cope with and shape transition in these times of job transformation. So just a brief look also at another problem that is related to this, so the one of skill mismatch. So there are evolving skills, but there is a problem worldwide, and especially also in Italy, but worldwide. So there is skill shortage because advanced jobs remain vacant due to the lack of qualified candidates. But also there is skills shortage at the low-end skills of the skill distribution. Then there is overskilling, overqualification, so highly qualified people perform simple, underskilled job. And everything, of course, is a wasted potential in terms of economic cost, lower productivity, stagnant wages, and reduced competitiveness. At the same time, it is a wasted potential because it is a wasted human potential, because if there is overskilling, of course, there is wasted education, wasted human potential. So skills have a key role. And this is the reason why systems like the skill intelligence systems are becoming more and more important also to cope with this skill mismatch and also to take account of this evolution of skills. So skill intelligence, what is a transformed workforce planning, is a way of analyzing online job advertising, company surveys, and so on and so forth, in order to predict what is going to be needed in the labor market. So this is the reason why it's very important in a time of, in this changing time, because all the other wave of analyzing the skill mismatches can be useless, because it is too late to analyze something that has already happened. So skill intelligence is a way, and also the Emilia Romagna has a skill intelligence unit. And just to show you very, very briefly, this is a dashboard by the Skill Intelligence, Web Intelligence Hub at the CEDEFOP. And as you can see, so this is in the real time, these are the last data. We can see what are the most required skills, most requested skills at different level of occupation, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So really the analysis, and this of course can be useful for government and for educational institution, because this is what is requested by the labor market. Concerning government, of course must support this innovation while creating protection to mitigate the negative effect on jobs, and should provide a social safety net, and also training. And in a while I will show you some best practices of government worldwide. Of course also businesses and employers have a responsibility. They have to promote internal reskilling, human-machine collaboration, and also strategic partnership with the institution and with government, and also with educational institutions. The same system, the educational system, as we said, is fundamental because a school must provide both solid technical scientific foundation and transversal skill for future jobs, and updated teacher, and also teacher, it is necessary to have teacher training because a teacher must transmit meta skill, again, because there is a key role of skill diversity, so learning to learn, critical thinking, and conscious digital use. And also tertiary education should integrate humanities with data science to produce more flexible graduates, because the important thing is to interpret the result, to interpret the output of the machine. And this can be done also only with critical thinking. And so I said before, just a couple of examples of best practices worldwide. These are initiatives at the government level. So in Finland, there has been this campaign, Elements of AI, that has trained over 1 million people in AI basics. So it started in Finland, and now is this campaign that is actually an online course on the elements of AI, and it has been translated in a lot of different languages, also in Italian. In Singapore, also there is another campaign, Skill Future, that provide credits to every adult citizen for training in AI and data analytics. And this is especially useful for workforce like in Singapore that is being composed of very different ages. And so this, as you can see, enhance the mid-career support, no? So also for 40, 50 years workers. And just a mention of so there are, of course, also corporate AI training initiatives, Amazon, IBM, and also AT&T, and maybe we will talk later on about this. But let's move at the demographic challenge and the role of inclusion in this AI transformation. So as we know, older workers often need more skilling to adapt to AI technologies, and it is necessary that government, together with corporate staff, provide this training also to older workers. We have to take into account that for example, in Italy, by 2035, almost 1/3 of the labor force will be over 55. So, of course, this is another challenge, this demographic transition worldwide, especially in Europe, of course, especially in Europe, especially in Italy. So, what we can say, lifelong learning is the new normal. So workers must embrace lifelong learning to stay relevant. Of course, government should support this training, government and businesses. Another, of course, but not only, it is important to be inclusive not only through older workers, but there are also many things to take into account about the different impact that this evolution, AI evolution, can have on the labor market. In particular, I want to mention the impact that can have also on gender disparity. So women represent only 26% of data and AI professional. This is related also to the development on STEM for women, and despite constituting almost 50% of the labor force. So AI system trained on data with gender bias, as we said before, so the role of algorithm also in recruitment. It is important that women are involved also in the elaboration of the algorithm, and they have to be trained for this. Then there is also another topic related to the algorithmic pluralism. So many algorithms, not only one, are necessary to be implemented in the HR system, because otherwise the stereotypes and all the discrimination go on and repeat themselves. Okay? And, so this is, of course, a topic that interests me a lot. So I conclude with these key takeaways. So we can say that we have not to be afraid. So we are witnessing a period of job transformation, not of job elimination. So job evolve rather than disappear, and job transformation create both challenges and opportunity, as we said. And learning and skill first, so lifelong learning is the new normal, and developing transversal skill and embracing skill diversity is essential. For another key point is that innovation must go hand in hand with social cohesion, as the introductory speaker told us, leaving no one behind. So, and policy must ensure AI benefit for all workers. And concerning policies, a successful AI transition requires cooperation between public sector, private company, unions, and civil society.
Thank you very much, Chiara. And I give the floor to Matteo Rinaldi, please.
Okay.
For you, Matteo, 25.
25 minutes? Okay, I try it. I'm not sure to do it, but I try. Okay. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here in this important conference. My contribution, let me change my glass, because my contribution is based on several research programs I carried out in recent years with some colleagues of this university and other university. All these research programs deal with new technologies and change, both in working condition, working lives, and organization of work. And we had the opportunity to study the relationship between new technologies, digital technologies, and world of work in different economic sectors, from manufacturing to logistics, from telecommunication, cleaning sector, health sector, and so on. At the same time, my contribution is based on I will also refer to extensive sociological literature that has focused on new technologies and work in recent period, because there is no doubt that digital technologies have generated significant interest within the discipline of economics and labor sociology. And the reason is quite clear. It is evident. Today, new technologies are pervasive of the world of work, compelling scholars to consider them. every job, every workers, even workers not using digital device are directly or indirectly affected by digitalization processes. As you can see on the slide, the vast majority of European workers use basic digital technologies at work in their workplaces, such as desktop computers, laptops, tablets, smartphones, other portable digital device, internet broadband connection, and so on. Moreover, the use of these basic technologies is widespread across the economic sector, in particular in services and in administration, and it is more common among professional technicians, administrators, and white-collar workers. At the same time, digital devices have been integrated in many jobs, regardless of education and level and skill level. As an example, as you can see on this slide, 37% of unskilled workers and 38% of workers with primary level of education mention using a portable digital device for work in their workplace. So this rapid and deep change in the world of work has raised question about the impact of technologies, new technologies, digital technologies in different working dimensions. Question as, for example, are new technologies coupled with new form of organization of work? Does the use of new technologies increase inequalities? What are the impacts of new technologies on working conditions, working lives? What are the opportunities, above all, what are the opportunities and what are the risks of new technologies associated to new technologies? Well, the sociology of work and economic sociology in general have been engaging with this question, and an entire scientific community is mobilized. So, one of the main topics receiving the attention of labor sociologists is the impact of new technologies in terms of job quality. Nowadays, for several reasons, it is not possible to carry out the studies on job qualities without considering new technologies and their impacts. In other terms, it is impossible nowadays, to analyze job quality without consider the presence that people are working with digital technologies. And it seems that actually digital technologies have an important impact on job quality in their several dimensions, extrinsic and intrinsic dimension. Indeed, while advanced technologies provide greater flexibility, without doubt, compared to the past, a new way of coordination among individual and collective actors, they also facilitate, not determinate, but facilitate the fragmentation of work in terms of content, space, and time. The increase of surveillance and working time intensification. And all this, in turn, leads to increased risk. For example, the decrease of job satisfaction, misalignment of social time structures, new work-life balance issue, higher risk of exploitation and self-exploitation. And it is not a coincidence that interest in work-related psychopathologies is growing in recent years. Stress, burnout, alienation, loss of sense of work, social isolation are all concepts experiencing a new season of interest from the social science, and new technologies often play a crucial role in the analysis of these new and old psychopathologies. At the same time, it has to be mentioned that effects of digitalization in terms of opportunities and risk can change a lot in relation to the economic sector we are considering, and technological trajectories adopted. Let me do a couple of examples about the impact of new technologies in terms of labor substitution, because it is able to illustrate the different effects across the sector. Indeed, on one hand, it is well known that in the banking sector, both the older waves of digitalization of the last century, for example, I'm referring to the introduction implementation of ATM. Everybody knows ATM, okay? And the current digitalization process represented by the implementation of what we name home banking services. Well, both these waves of digitalization have led a significant reduction in jobs in that sector. In a similar way, in telecommunication sector, and in particular when we consider the call center activities, artificial intelligence seems to have a clear effect of labor substitution. Think about the effect of chatbot device, the chatbot adoption in the call center in terms of replacing of human operator task. But on the contrary, in other economic sectors, for example, in the healthcare sector, digitalization doesn't seem to have the same effect of labor substitution. In this case, digitalization seems to hesitate to generate a reconfiguration of tasks and competences of the different professional profiles, but not in their reduction, not in reduction of employment. Also with regard to the manufacturing sector, at the time it is unclear how much the so-called fourth industrial revolution has impacted on the reduction of employment. Of course, digitalization in automotive sector, for example, had effect on several dimensions of job quality, on the organization of work, of working activities, and their content, but the decline in employment in that sector, in the automotive sector, seems to be driven by other factors as the electric transition, for example, another trajectory, technological trajectory, okay, market crisis, changes in business models, and the emergence of new international competitors at global level. So, of course, there are different effects of digitalization across the sector. Moreover, risk and opportunities generated by new technologies vary not only in relation to the economic sector. Various comparative international studies have shown that platforms change their characteristics and their impacts on working condition and on the labor market, depending on the institutional context in which they are operating. I'm not referring only to the legal regulation across different countries, but also to the societal characteristic, economic condition, demographic factors, institutional context, industrial relation systems, educational system, and so on. And this has to be considered not only at macro level, at country level. Because we have to consider it also at organizational level and at firm level. Digital technologies are always placed within both formal and informal organizational processes. And it is the interplay between these organizational processes, this institutional context, and the implementation of new technologies that sociology of work have to focus, have to analyze. This is the challenge, one of the main challenges of the sociology of work and in general of economic sociology, dropping new technologies and their impact into the context. This doesn't mean giving up looking for regularities, obviously, but it means adopting a multi-scalar and a dynamic perspective. So, this is the only point to be paid attention by sociology of work, the effect of technologies, their impacts, the consequences. No, not exactly. Because if sociology of work wants to be consistent with its main original mission, it has not to limit itself to analyzing, measuring, evaluating impacts, effects of new technologies. Sociology of work must undertake a more ambitious task, challenging the technological determinism and its implication. It has to be the North Star of sociology of work. When I speak of technological determinism, I mean the approach that establishes a direct, linear, unidirectional relationship between technology and society. That to say, if a specific technology is adopted, we should expect a specific associated outcome in the social realm. This perspective, this idea, has always been subject to criticism in the social science, but it reappears with every waves of technological innovation. And nowadays, this idea, this concept, is more and more widespread in the debate about automation, digitalisation, platformization of economy, platformization of work, and so on. Even sociologists often succumb to the temptation of emphasizing technological innovation as drivers of epochal transformation, overlooking the role of institution, power relation, and economic dynamics. Think about the language we are using. We use the term platform economy, we use the term digital age, we use the term artificial intelligence era, as in this conference, as the title of this conference, to describe an entire historical period or an entire production regime. And social relation, social order, power relation disappear behind these terms. In similar way, we use the concept algorithmic control in order to describe platform coordination, and we tend to attribute decision-making on organization of work, economic activities, investment, and the resource allocation to the platform or to the algorithm itself by absolving decision makers, team leaders, supervisors, managers, and workers by their responsibilities and choice. The contribution of sociology of work lies just in uncovering the social and power relation embedded in technologies and their adoption in the productive process. Please, note that I recognize that each technology has distinctive properties able to influence their use. What I mean is that I'm not adopting a radical social constructionist approach or social constructionist perspective, but at the same time, we have to consider what innovation studies tell us in a very clear way. Namely, that both the design, the implementation, and the use of each material or immaterial technology, each material or immaterial artifact are all processes embedded with institutional context and shaped by social relation and power pressures. All technologies, all artifacts, digital technologies and artificial intelligence included. And back to talk about artificial intelligence, when literature deals with artificial intelligence system or algorithmic management in the workplace, the concept of opacity is often recalled. Indeed, artificial intelligence and algorithms are often considered as difficult to comprehend. Of course, one kind of opacity arises from the inherent complexity of understanding how artificial intelligence works and what data it processes. And this opacity derives from the nature of machine learning algorithms, deep learning systems, the heuristic way to proceed, and the scale of data collection required for their operation. And actually, these are the cases where we are dealing with something different than the famous stochastic parrot. We are in front of different technologies. Of course, scientists are understanding it, and I'm sure that we will come to understanding it better and better. But at the same time, in a similar way to the first industrial revolution, when we used steam engines, without knowing the laws of thermodynamics, nowadays, we are using artificial intelligence systems without knowing exactly why they give us some outputs and not other outputs. But despite this kind of opacity is important, and we have to consider it, this is not the only opacity of digital technologies. Indeed, not all algorithms are inexplicable, and not all databases are uncontrollable. In fact, literature identifies two additional types of opacity. The second type of opacity identified by literature is called technical illiteracy. That is the opacity that arises from the lack of widespread skills and competencies necessary to understand and monitor how algorithms operate, what the previous contributor, Chiara, said. And this explains the emphasis placed on digital divide and the need of digital education, STEAM disciplines, and so on. But I think we need to focus, as sociologists, on one-third form of opacity identified by literature. The opacity that arises from the the opacity deriving from the selective access to technology. That is the ability to access the data processed by the algorithm, its inputs, its operation, and sometimes even its outputs. This kind of opacity starts from corporate imposed secrecy, but it extends beyond that. Selective access to technology is reproduced across the entire social and organizational hierarchies. Within a value chain, some companies have full access to data and algorithmic system. Other companies have limited access, and some others have no access at all. The same happens at firm level, where some workers have a full access to data and algorithms. Other workers have limited access, and some others have no access at all. And this is not an inherent properties of new technologies, of artificial intelligence, of deep learning. It is not a natural opacity of this technology. The literature defines this an intentional opacity, a social opacity shaped by the power relation characterizing both society and organization. And individual and collective actors at the lower end of the social hierarchy often have extremely limited access to technological knowledge. And this lack of access makes more difficult for them to manage and negotiate technologies. For example, in our research on call center workers, we have interviewed several employees unaware of specific algorithmic systems managing their working activities. Despite the strict requirements of the European Artificial Intelligence Regulation, one of the most advanced regulations in the world, that qualified the use of artificial intelligence in work context as high-risk application. And despite the fact that in Italy, the introduction of algorithmic management system in the workplace requires prior communication to the union representative, many call center operators don't know what kind of algorithmic system is managing their inbound telephone calls or what criteria are used for telephone call distribution. But as researchers, while we were interviewing them, we knew that as artificial intelligence system was in use in their workplace. And we knew that this system was analyzing, in aggregate way, of course, voice tone, performance outcomes, time spent on call, and so on, 5 minutes. In a similar way, some manufacturing plant we studied, the manufacturing execution system, the so-called MES, for the majority of workers is a kind of black box. Workers often have no knowledge of the data processing by MES or how MES is operating. They know only the outputs, sometimes only the outputs relevant for their specific workstation. But this is not the case everywhere. Some manufacturing companies ensure broader knowledge of MES and data operation. Some call centers train every operator to understand the artificial intelligence system in use. The knowledge permits workers and their representative organization to negotiate not only the consequence of these technologies, but sometimes also their design and implementation, and sometimes ensuring a broader and shared knowledge of technologies adopted leads to greater efficiency in the use of the same technologies. This different level of workers' knowledge depend on several institutional, cultural, social, economic factors. It depends on workplace organization, industrial relation model adopted, and also on the power resource of workers and unions in the specific workplace. Understanding these dynamics is exactly the task of economic and labor sociology. Okay, let me finish with this slide. I love this slide. The resolution is not so good, but because it is not a scientific image, it is not only a scientific image, it is also a work of art. This painting, I think it is an infographic image, is exposed at the second floor of the MoMA Museum at New York. And its title is Atlas of Artificial Intelligence. It was created by a quite famous Australian researcher, Kate Crawford, together with a Serbian, both researcher and artist, Vladan Joler. And I want to conclude this, my contribute with this image for two reasons. The first one, it represents how artificial intelligence is deeply embedded in concrete words and material processes rather than existing separately from them. In other terms, artificial intelligence is represented as ingrained within natural resource, social order, manufacturing processes, intellectual activities, logistic systems, labor relation, power relation, and so on. Artificial intelligence in this image is not another world. Artificial intelligence is the world where we are living. And if we want to understand artificial intelligence, we have to understand the world where we are living and where artificial intelligence is placed. The second reason is important as well. Indeed, the second reason is just because this picture is an atlas. And as an atlas, it is able to represent the convergence of different epistemic domains. According to the French philosopher Georges Didi Huberman, the atlas challenged the rigid separation between science and art. So this may symbolize a potential and fruitful dialogue between hard science, the so-called art science, technological science, social science, humanities, and arts. And in the face of artificial intelligence and emerging technologies, it is urgent to favor and sustain this dialogue. Summarizing and finishing, the main task and challenge of sociology work is to keep technological change anchored to society, to contrast the idea of an immaterial digital world and to analyze the complex and variegated ways in which technologies intertwine with the broader environment where they are placed. To achieve this, we, as sociologists work, can draw on a valuable legacy of our discipline, but we must also engage a multidisciplinary alliance that is more necessary than ever. Thank you very much. Have a good time in this conference, and above all, good work.
So thank you. I would like to thank both our speakers for keeping the time limits, and now I open the debate. So who wants to take the floor to make questions, comments? Manfred, so we need some microphone, or are you coming? Yes. You have to jump on. No, don't jump. Ilaria? I have a loud voice. No. Please come to the floor. Okay. Okay.
Thank you very much. Well, I simply, after these very, very interesting speeches, I would like to stress one point which Eduardo made. The point on workers' involvement in management's decision-making. You know, this kind of technology, AI, algorithmic management, and all these digital tools, they, in spite of the fact that there might be all kinds of skills of workers, they are, as you said, for most workers, a black box. And because they are a black box, there are fears of workers, what is going to happen with them as far as their privacy is concerned, as far as discrimination is concerned, and so on and so on. And therefore, for the mere sake of acceptability of the system, it's absolutely necessary that we have a workers' participation, workers' involvement from the very beginning, meaning already in the planning stage when the design is decided, and then, of course, in the operation until the end. Otherwise, you know, there will not be acceptability, and there will be conflicts which will be detrimental not only for the workers, but for the economy as such. And of course, you have to stress what you said, Eduardo. The legislator will not decide the questions. The questions, what kind of digital tools will be in the respective company. This has to be decided within the company according to the specific conditions there. This cannot be left to the employer and to the management. It has to be together with the employees.
Any other questions, remarks? Please, Janice.
This is more a remark. It's about the digital tools. What strikes me at the moment is that in many companies, to say the employer or the manager, they don't understand it either. They buy a product and the algorithm produces something. And then if you ever discuss it with them, why did it say X when X is wrong? They say, we don't know. They don't. It's almost, as you said, the black box. They do not understand the output. But at the current time, the output is affecting people, maybe affecting the workers, it sometimes is affecting the customer. And I think that, in a sense, is a danger. So I'm going to just refer back, it depends on your age. Those of you who remember the film 2001, A Space Odyssey, does anybody remember that film from 30 years ago? In that film, you think about it, 30 years ago, and there was the three astronauts, on a space station, are speaking to artificial intelligence. Hal was its name, had a name. And then you discover by the end, basically, those of you who don't know the film, but things start to go wrong on the space station, and they assume Hal will help them fix it. And just the reverse, Hal is setting up a situation that they're going to die. He's going to just let them go around in space. But the thing is, it comes back to who programmed Hal. And Hal was programmed by somebody who probably resented authority and does this. So it gets back to now that when many of these algorithmic tools are being designed, we don't actually know, and the purchaser of the tool actually doesn't know the way the designer thought about the users and what the output would be, the black box that was just mentioned. So I think that's the big danger. I mean, I do agree with workers' participation, but there's an enormous danger here, and the sellers of the digital tools just want to sell them and promise greatness of it. So that, to me, by the way, a second point that we did not describe at this conference, but it's implied. Many new jobs may be created, but this thing about the transition, people are concerned about their own job. It's wonderful that lots of jobs are created, but if I'm made obsolete, I'm worried, and that has a terrible political consequence that we're seeing already, but that's beyond the scope of this conference. Thank you.
Any other comments?
First of all, thanks a lot for the two talks. With regards to the future of AI, and also thanks to the comments that have just been made, I've been reading quite a lot in the past year or so, something that sounds very banal, but I think it catches the core of the whole issue, and that is not how AIs work, but who owns AIs. They do get the decisions of how an AI model behaves, what it believes it's correct or not, if we want to say it like that. So one thing I was wondering is, I've been reading also about the fact that the European Union is now trying to catch up with AIs, as in trying to become independent from the US and China, basically, AI modules that have been used for the past years. One thing I was wondering is, wouldn't it be also necessary to have something like, for example, universities, a consortium that tries to tackle the AI issue also by putting together different disciplinary views, perspectives, because yes, it is true that AIs are mostly on the surface pieces of code, but then they also encode social values, and these requires people like the ones who are here, people from all the other departments from this university and from other universities as well. So, I don't know, I am a bit worried about the black box, but if it were a black box decided by an open community, then maybe it wouldn't be so scary or so unjust in some cases. I don't know what you think of this.
Yep. Well, yes, okay, it works. Well, I absolutely agree with first Manfred Weiss. I'm interested exactly in this topic, the involvement of workers. The problem is, what are the factors that can foster, that can permit, and permit knowledge sharing? Of course, as Riccardo said in the introduction of this panel, the congestion model can be an important factor for sharing the knowledge of new technologies, artificial intelligence, manufacturing execution system. But I think it is not enough. Because in the workplaces, the power relation depending on also other factors. For example, the power of the structural power, the power source of workers and union in this specific context. So I'm studying exactly this aspect, and I continue to do it, obviously. But I think this is the right question to study.
So I completely agree. So not only worker participation, but again, gender sensitive also, of course. Participation in the development of the algorithm, but not only in the development, but in the monitoring of the algorithm, of the results of the algorithm. So this is for sure a very key topic. And also the other thing to take into consideration is this the issue of so-called AI alignment, no? The alignment with the human views. So the development of AI together with the human views, also in considering a future that is, as Acemoglu, no, the Nobel Prize, said, human-centered. So this is, of course, the point.
Yeah, if I may react above all to the last remark, but I don't know, it's gone. But I think that in general, I've been quick on the point, but I think the crucial aspect is about the inputs that we are providing to the algorithm. And I totally agree with Matteo. This is not necessitated. So we can still decide what we put on the algorithm. Of course, there are models. That's a very good point. So, and there is a purchase of algorithms. So we are buying a final product. The undertakings, companies are buying final products, but this is their own responsibility and their own call. So my point was, there is an employer's call when he or she decides to resort to an algorithm instead of having a human being as a manager. So I agree with your perspective. It's human-centered in the sense that we still have a decision-making power because all 9,000 is not already here, and it was only in the mind of Stanley Kubrick, but probably that will be so. But I think we are still in time to stop or to integrate, because I think this is a very important point also from a legal perspective, because there is an issue of accountancy at the end of the day. And these issues have not been solved, I think, generally speaking, necessary on the algorithm itself. So there is a legal person responsible or accountable for the outputs of the algorithm, because otherwise we have to fire the algorithm, we have to condemn the algorithm, but that's not the case. So still, I think there is a margin, and this is clearly a legal issue, clearly, to stop algorithm to become not only a shield, but a kind of last accountable, non-accountable actor of the player of the game. But this is a human decision. This is a decision of the legislator, this is a decision of the courts. If the courts are not algorithms themselves, because this is one of the perspectives we are facing. In Italy, we are experimenting in the administrative process, this algorithm decision making, which is, of course, very, very worrying. Any other? Yeah, please. Federica, I'm sorry for this, but the people from the informatics today are a bit absent. We have no algorithm, no robots. We have to provide the robots. Bring in the microphone, please go ahead. If you could present yourself.
Okay, I am a medical physicist working in an hospital. So
okay.
I want to try to share what we think about this point. So certainly, on our point of view, working in the health environment, so and trying to manage algorithm, creating algorithm, and also monitoring the algorithm for the use of health of patient. Okay, but probably not only for that, also managing the activity of the hospital. Any other point, asking for the population to do some examination or not. So regarding all this, I think that the key point is that certainly the worker has to be involved at the beginning, but there is also a problem of knowledge and also a big problem of the incredible amount of data that are required to learn or to teach an algorithm. So we believe, or we have the idea, that the key point is something similar to what happened for radiation. So people who work with radiation don't see them. They don't have an idea of what they are, but they are terrified. But if there are regulation principles and people that try to follow and monitor, and especially do the quality assurance of this tool, that means to have a check at it, trying to understand what they are doing, trying to understand how they work, if they have the same level of accuracy, robustness, and ethical and so on. Probably this is something that at the end would help to the worker in general, not only to believe in what the algorithm would tell you, because when you fight against an algorithm that has analyzed 1 million of cases, and you are a doctor, so you can imagine if the result of the algorithm is different, what you could decide or not. But I think that this could be a way that we are trying to follow, that the key way of the AI.
Thank you. Thank you. So I think we ran out of time, but it was a nice discussion, and I would like to thank you for attending this introduction. And I will now suggest you to join the sessions. Of course, there is a time for a break.
Which session is in which room?
Oh, that's a good. That's a good question, Manfred.
The session
Microphone?
B are always in the 25 room, which is the room right at the end of this corridor. Then other session, I really can't remember. It's 32 and 34, but
It's advertised in a way?
Yeah, it's in the entrance. In the entrance, there's
Outside.
it is written where each session is placed. I can't remember in this where the other session are.
We need an artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Bye. Bene. Mi pare che ce la siamo cavata bene, dai. Sì, sì, effettivamente mi pare che siamo anche coordinati. Non si sa come, ma
C'è stato qualcosa nell'aria che ci ha fatto
sì, che per
coordinare,
fortuna ci ha fatto
perché noi non ci siamo sentiti prima.
no, però io avevo un po', diciamo, sentito quello che avevate pensato, quindi quando quello mi ha detto che venire ieri alle 7:58
Alle 7:58, ma poverino.